Time once again for another edition of the Kaufman Corner podcast. With you, as always, David Lesky from Inside the Crown. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. We're going to be talking about the pitching staff. At least we're going to start there. Cole Ragans, clearly the most important pitcher for this team. But after him, who's next? I think there's a little bit more of a debate. There's a number of guys that are going to be very important for this team. We'll get into that. Maikel Garcia, is he the right guy to be batting at the top of the lineup? We'll talk about the batting order a little bit. The roster battles that are going on. Listen, we're into spring training. I mean, it's time now to start overreacting to what's happening with just the first weekend of games. We'll do it right now on Kaufman Corner.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on a Sunday night. If you're catching us via the podcast, remember you can be a part of the conversation. We can see your comments. You can chat with other Royals baseball fans that are enjoying the podcast tonight. You can do it right there in the chat room. We go live Sunday nights at 9 p.m., so don't miss it. Make sure you're a part of the equation here on the Kaufman Corner. And, of course, subscribe to David Lesky's excellent newsletter, Inside the Crown. David, you even have a discount. Is that right? For
I
Kaufman
do.
Corner, lay it on them. How do they get the discount for the Inside the Crown?
It is phenomenally easy. InsideTheCrown.substack.com/ and this is where it gets clever, /Kaufman Corner. So if you're watching or listening to the podcast, just look at what it's called and put that after the / and then you can get 25% off. For yearly only, but yeah, super easy. I appreciate you guys. I want to give you a little something. So just bringing more people in. Gotta proselytize the newsletter here.
Exactly. We always love, I love the newsletter. It's great. I think everybody else will love it. He's got a lot of great stuff up there. He's projected the roster for both the hitting and pitching. I always love when you're doing that this time of year. So there's a lot of great stuff. So check out Inside the Crown. It is a part of my regular preparation for covering Royals baseball. David does a fantastic job. So we encourage you to check that out. Let's talk about the pitching side of things. I think we'd all agree that Cole Ragans is the most important part, right? And we're going to talk about who we think is the next most important pitcher after Cole Ragans. Just curious, as you went through it, what would you learn from going through the exercise?
Well, it's kind of what we talked about so many times with the pitching. They have so much depth now, and this is very different than it was this time last year. This time last year, the pitching, if everybody stayed healthy, the pitching looked really good, right? And nobody stayed healthy. I mean, on the opening day roster, I actually should go through and look at this, but Carlos Estevez didn't hit the IL. Did Daniel Lynch? Daniel Lynch may have got. There are very few pitchers who were on the opening day roster who did not get hurt. And now they've got the depth. Now they've got a bunch of guys in the starting rotation and the bullpen. So it became a little bit more difficult. Cole Ragans is number one because he's, to me, the only guy who can be a true ace. And I don't think you can win a World Series without either a true ace or like the most dominant back end of the bullpen. Cough 2015 Royals. It's very difficult. And so Ragans is easily number one, but then you start to look at the depth and I went into this thinking it, I was going, well, maybe it's Chris Bubic or Seth Lugo, or maybe it's Noah Cameron. And I'm like, yes, they're all important, but there's backups on those guys. There's a backup on all of them. So to me, I ended up going to the bullpen, and I think the one guy in the bullpen who can change everything is Lucas Erceg. He's the guy who, if he is humming, and we talked about him last week, I think it was last week, might have been a couple weeks ago. If he's humming along, the bullpen falls into place. If he's striking out 27, 28, 30% of batters, if he is coming in the 7th, 8th, 9th, sometimes whatever inning he's needed, and being that fireman, I think that he sets everything up. And once he sets things up, then Matt Strom slots in, and Estevez is the 9th inning. And you say, okay, Nick Mears and John Schreiber are the middle innings, and it makes things fit. So I think Lucas Erceg is the second most important pitcher on the staff.
I have no problem with that, because I do agree. And I think we talked about this last week, that if they're going to, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago when we were going through our pitchers that had the biggest variance on things, that if Matt Quatraro wants to manage Lucas Erceg the way he did before, which is using him as that fireman, that he's the guy, okay, I'm not sure when I'm going to, he knows to a degree, in the sense that I don't know that it was really as much a quote unquote fireman, like, oh my God, we've got 2 men on, get up and get ready and get in there, like the old Whitey Herzog days of that kind of fireman. But
you have 3 pitches to warm up.
Yeah. But it's the, okay, 2, 3, 4 is the critical point in their lineup, and that's when you're coming in. So whoever's in front of you, you're getting 2, 3, and 4 is a little bit more how he deploys them. So it isn't as much about get ready quick as it is like, this is the spot when I get to the 3rd time on this part of the lineup, or if it's the 4th time, because we have a big lead, then you're going into the game, right? That's how he likes to deploy him. And if that's what he wants to do, then yes, I agree. Lucas Erceg needs to be swing and miss, because Carlos Estevez doesn't have that ability. He has not shown the ability really ever in his career to have that elite strike.
1 year.
Yeah. Did he? What year? Like, was it when?
It was 20. I gotta look at it. I think it was 23. His first year with the Angels, I believe he had like a 27% strikeout rate. I want to say I'll get it here in a second. And it's been 22, 23 most of his career. Yeah, 27.8% in 2023, and then between 22.2 and 23.6 in the 4 years around it before he fell off to 20.1 last year.
Okay.
So the 1 year.
Yeah. The 1 year. I mean, but it's been a while, right? Yeah. So I don't think that guy's coming back, right? Do you? I mean,
no, I mean, I think he could bounce back to the 22-ish, 22.5. But yeah, you're not going to get 27.8% from Carlos Estevez. And yeah, I think last year, not to derail the conversation and make it about him, but I think last year the slow ramp up, his velocity was down because was it a back injury in spring training? Does that sound right? Lower back, maybe.
That sounds kind of right.
Yeah, he missed the first like 10 days. I mean, he was obviously ready for the season. That probably didn't help, but I mean, he's been, like I said, 22 to 23 and a half basically. And I think that's where the bounce back could come. But that's not an elite strikeout guy. That's just some strikeouts. It's league average.
So then to me, and what I'll be interested to see is, like, Matt Quatraro continue to deploy him being Lucas Erceg, continue to deploy Lucas Erceg like he was that elite strikeout pitcher. And he was not doing the job at the same level. I mean, it's just too much to ask. And so I do think that, to your point on Lucas Erceg, I think, he needs to prove it before Quatraro uses him that way. Yeah. And I didn't go with Lucas Erceg. And one of my reasons is because I'm not convinced that he's going to be that guy. I think he could be that guy. I understand your point. He was one of my 2 or 3 guys I was considering for the spot, but I just really want to see that if he doesn't have the elite, because he was still a good reliever, he just didn't have that elite strikeout. Yeah. Don't deploy him in that fashion. Then just go to innings and understand that you don't really have a guy that you can say, this guy overmatches your best hitters. And just recognize that it's got to be based upon freshness. It's got to be based upon routine. It's got to be based upon, being able to go through whatever you need to warm up. Like, that's what it needs to be. And so from that standpoint, I have no problem with it, because I think it might be the case that it's about how Matt Quatraro deploys him, right? That makes him so important. Like, he needs to, the strikeouts will allow him to keep doing what he wants to do. But if he doesn't have the strikeouts, then stop doing that.
Yeah. Well, and they've got the horses to not do that. They have the guys now that like I said, you Schreiber and Mears. You're the middle inning guy. Strom, Ursa, Estevez. You've got a couple guys who can slide. Maybe we'll probably talk about him in a little bit. Luinder Avila. He if he's in the bullpen, he's a guy you can pitch in the late innings probably. But you ease him in the middle innings. And so I think they have the bullpen where you can go inning by inning. But I also think it's nice to have that guy who can get an out any time.
Yeah, I do too. I went with Chris Bubic, and I went with him because I think he has the ability to be dominant as a starting pitcher, and maybe not not the kind of Cole Ragans strikeout numbers, but his strikeout numbers have come a long way, and so he's the guy. Like, I don't think Seth Lugo can do what he did 2 years ago again. I think hoping for that, or building your team thinking, okay, we're going to get the third place Cy Young finish out of Seth Lugo. It's not going to happen, right? And so
second. Let's have some respect here.
Well, second. Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's going to happen again. So the pitcher that I think's got the next best chance to be a top 5 Cy Young guy after Cole Ragans is Chris Bubic, and he's got to stay healthy. You got to keep him on your roster. I don't know about you, but I thought some of the conversation. I don't know if you heard his comments about a contract extension. He pretty much said, like, no one's talking to me, and I didn't know if that was like he was hurt or upset by that fact. But it certainly puts it all on the table. Like, go have a great year, kid. Have a great year and make yourself a boatload of money, right? It's all out there for him. He's got every incentive in the world to go try to make it happen.
Yeah, I wondered that too. If it was nobody's talking to me, pick up the phone, call, or if it was, no, they haven't talked to me. I couldn't quite tell where it was, but there is. He's I mean, what does he have on the line? Ranger Suarez got 5 and 130. I mean, I feel like that's Chris. This is another conversation for another day, but the range of outcomes in Chris Bubic's 2027 salary is wild, because if he gets hurt again, it's $8 million. If he throws 28 starts, it's $30 million. So it's interesting, and I think he was probably my second choice if I had to rank them, because for everything you said, right? Like the number 2 starter. Look, anybody could step up. We didn't think Seth Lugo was going to be that guy 2 years ago, so maybe Noah Cameron has another. Maybe he takes a step forward, and the peripherals catch up with the ERA. It's possible. I wouldn't predict it. It's possible, but Chris Bubic is the most likely of that bunch to be a guy who you are real happy to start game 2 of a playoff series. And so he makes, to me, he was right behind Urseg in my list.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think the other aspect that makes him so instrumental is he still could be traded. And if he gets off to a good start, and you've got Bergert and Kolich throwing well down to the minors, Bailey Falter pitching well out of the bullpen, and you go, okay, I mean, I know it hurts because he's off to a great start, but if he's pitching well, he could be an NC. I mean, how much would he bring if he comes out and he's pitching the way he was last year?
Yeah. I mean, I have to look back at trades. I did it last year, and I can't remember who came up with guys who were on expiring contracts. But if a team is going for it, you can get a lot for that guy. The problem where it gets difficult in a trade is how many teams have the big bat to trade for the arm if they're in the playoff race too, right? It's are you giving up? I don't even know. Are the Mariners giving up Randy Arozarena for Chris Bubic in July because the Mariners found enough offense and 2-3 other pitchers got hurt? Maybe. I mean that. They're very, and he's just the first name that popped in my head, but it's hard to find that contender and contender deal is the only problem with trading him midseason. But I mean, there's a world that the Royals could say, look, we're getting a lot from Jack Caglione. We're getting a lot from Carter Jensen. Our offense is fine. And we've got 6 starting pitchers. Okay. We'll trade for a top prospect who can help us in 2020. And I think they need to be open to that, but so that is another way he can help. For sure.
I mean, that's what the Brewers have been doing, right? Yeah. The Brewers make the right move for the long haul always. no matter what time
Every
of
time.
year it is, every time. And then, so what do you have? So yeah, people got upset when they traded Hader. They got upset when they traded Devin Williams, and they traded Burns, but what's happened is they still are a championship caliber team, and they have one of the best farm systems in baseball because they're constantly stocking it. And that's where I think the Royals have to get to.
And the Brewers were bottom. I have to look away. I can't remember when it was, but the Brewers were like bottom 5 farm system recently. I think it might have been 23. It might have been as recent as that. But yeah, by doing those smart moves, they have built the farm system up while maintaining a 90+ win team every single year. Yeah, that makes sense.
Anybody else in consideration besides the 2 names we've mentioned on yours?
I mean, I Lugo was a guy to me.
Yeah,
I think he's really important because they're going to need some innings too. Like they have the depth, but if they had a guy who could, I'm not going to ask for the 206 or whatever it was in 2024, but 175, 180 innings, league average even is really valuable. And honestly, it's worth $23 million. If you do the WAR calculation, it actually is worth that number. So he was a guy, and then I thought Noah Cameron too, because again, we talk about the lack of strikeouts, the lack of whiffs from Noah Cameron, but I've said this before, he gets whiffs on his non-fastball pitches. And so if he can take that next step, he could be the second most important pitcher on the staff very easily. He's the guy to me who could be a number 2 if on the opening day roster, because I don't think Berger or Kolek make it. He's the guy who could be a number 2 if Bubic isn't. He's the most likely because he does get whiffs on his other pitches. And so those are the 2 big ones. Also, Estevez is not, I thought about him. And the reason why is because the one thing that can derail a season more than anything is blown leads in the 9th inning. Mm-hmm. And that's really, it's just really important to keep that lead, not just for winning, but for morale and the mindset.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Who's on your list?
I Seth Lugo is really the only other guy. I mean, I think Noah Cameron, if he could just completely duplicate what he did last year while everybody else that was hurt stays healthy, then, this pitching staff's incredible. None of us expect him to do that. The fielding independent pitching says he won't do it. So I guess I did think about him and I went, no, I don't think so. And that may be wrong on my part. I may be selling him short, which is what I think people have done of his entire career. He's never been a highly thought of prospect, and he went out there and he didn't get enough consideration for the Rookie of the Year last year. I thought he should have finished higher in the Rookie of the Year. I thought it was ridiculous, but so maybe I'm, looking right by the obvious guy, but really Lugo was the one. And then I just kicked around the idea, like, can we think about redoing 24? And I just don't think you can. And so that's why I settled on Bubic. I think Bubic just got a chance to be elite. And I think I also like the idea of trading him, whether it's for an outfield, a bat in the outfield, or just for, young talent to stock the system, because you've got plenty of pitching that's forcing its way up to the big leagues.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I was gonna say they don't need pitching. Every team needs pitching. That's a stupid comment, but they can afford to trade pitching, and especially a guy who probably won't be on the team next year.
But I mean, what they really need is depth in their prospects. I mean, when you look at it, Carter Jensen's going to come off that list real quick, right? And then you're talking about guys that are down in low A ball. I mean, they could use some legitimate AA type guys that would finish the year in AAA and be a part of the equation for next year. So, I mean, I like, if they make that move, again, it's not for right now, and people are gonna be like, well, I wanted a big outfield bat, whatever. But if it's the guys who end up being the starting outfielders, for Jack Caglione to be able to move to first base and hopefully hit if Vinny's, comes through his contract, and they don't re-sign him, but just getting that kind of depth where you could listen if somebody calls and goes, listen, we'll give you a boatload for Vinny Pasquantino. We need a legit frontline bat. And you go, okay, we have Caglione and we have this, rocking arm right fielder that's, hitting 34 home runs in AA. You can make that move. You can make a good baseball decision. Right now, there just isn't anything coming. Right? I mean, it's here. It's Jack Caglione, it's Carter Jensen, and then there's nothing for a while. Even the bats are a way off. So, that's why I think this would be a good move that could even pay dividends if they would do it in spring training, or if they would do it early in the season, which almost no one does. But or even at the deadline, if it's someone that can play for him next year, that's a good move. So I think he just has
I agree.
a couple of different paths to being the guy to get it done. All right. We will talk about a little bit about, where is the depth ultimately going to be put for the Kansas City Royals. We'll do that right after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. And if you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight.
Green Light Dispensary, voted Kansas City's best dispensary and your go-to for quick, convenient service. With 4 locations across the Kansas City area, we're never far away. Our drive-through and express windows make it easy to get in, get out, and get on with your day. Our award-winning service is powered by a team of experts dedicated to making your experience seamless and enjoyable. It's no wonder we've been voted the best. Convenient locations, fast service, knowledgeable staff. That's the Green Light difference. Visit us today.
All right, David, let's talk a little bit about the depth of the pitching. How are they going to use? Like, how do you see Bailey Falter fitting into this equation? How do we see Kolich? What is the dream scenario for, Bergert and all this to start to fit together, when they come out of camp?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the first 3 starters in spring were Kolich, Bergert, and Falter. we got to see the depth right away. I think start with Falter. The issue has always been he's out of options. So I think he's going to, unless they trade him. And I will stand by. I've said this, 50 times, that pitchers get hurt in spring training. And when a pitcher does get hurt on some team, is it 3.6 or 3.4, whatever the salary is for Falter, I think it's 3.6, is nothing for a team to get a guy who Bailey Falter has been fine. He is not, I don't think he has the upside of Bergert and Kolich. So
right.
He is clearly a depth / number 5 starter. But if some team wants some depth, I think he can get moved. But if he doesn't, he'll be in the bullpen. And
I don't think a team's going to want depth. I think they're going to be desperate because they need an arm.
That's what I mean. They're getting him because they're out of depth. They're out of depth. Yeah. And they need a 5th starter. They need a guy to start March 31st or whatever.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's totally fair. Obviously the game wasn't televised. I'm not surprised. I don't know what he looked like today. I heard he looked pretty sharp. Although I was looking at the pitch chart and he misses in the middle a lot. So, we saw that in his 4 outings with the big league club last year. But I think he's perfectly adequate as a 5th starter for another team. And I where I struggle to see him fit in the rotation is, when's he going to get starts? Because he's going to go to the bullpen. He's not going to be built up unless something happens quickly. He's a reliever, right? So at some point, you're just going to go to the guy in AAA, whether it's Bergert or Kolich, whoever's pitching the best at that point. So, and Kolich pitched on the opener on Friday. I'll tell you what I thought was interesting, and this is terrible stat scouting, but he averaged 95.6 with his fastball, and it was 94 last year. That's intriguing to me. And it was 2 innings.
That's my curiosity is what is, juicing him in the bullpen going to do? I mean,
Kolich could be really interesting in the bullpen, I think.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. I want to see what happens when he goes 4. spring training, and he was he amped up because he hadn't pitched in 5 months, maybe. These guys, they like playing, most of them.
Yeah.
Most of them are not Jeff King. So I think that there are guys who enjoy baseball and it's fun to play. So
or Darren Peterson, as the modern
right. Yeah.
Modern Jeff King.
I will say that Stephen Kolek did not ask out of the game in the second half. He decided to he was just scheduled for 2 innings. But Kolek and Berger are really interesting to me because I don't know the number. If I had to guess, I would say there are 18 teams that one of them is starting for, maybe more, and 12 that both of them are starting for. And that's, I'm pulling a number out of my, but they're good pitchers. They're legitimate big league starting pitchers. And unless something weird happens, they're both going to be in AAA to start the season. I mean, and they should be, I think. I don't think they're better than the other 5. Right now, something could change, obviously, injuries, whatever. But and I thought Berger's stuff sounded like it looked really good. The numbers looked really good on it. Kolek, again, velocity bump, all that. We'll see what happens when he goes more innings. But I'll keep saying it. They're in really good shape depth wise.
Yeah, and then this is a place like where the Rays. I mean, you can see the approach that the Royals are trying to take, as opposed to the Dayton Moore. We won't trade anybody. We're just gonna draft a championship team, and he never really wanted to move any of the parts around to try to build it, and so they never had any pitching depth. I mean, they struggled. I've said it a million times. What would Luke Hochevar have been if he could have been forced out of the rotation after a year or so? How many good years of quality bullpen work could that guy have done? And could he maybe even before if he gets back there sooner, his arm doesn't blow out, maybe he picks up a pitch or two along the way and he's a dominant closer. And they won a world championship with him, so I'm not complaining about that. But I just think that they're in a new spot here where they've got this kind of depth, and that's what we've seen the Rays do time and time again. And I don't even remember which one it was, but there's been a number of different guys that the Rays had down there that they would call up. They'd pitch 4 good starts. And I know this from being a fantasy baseball player, that you go, okay, I'm going to grab this guy and I'm going to ride him, and then he gets sent back down. And you're like, well, what the hell? The guy's pitching really well. And there were numerous guys over the last 10 years. They're like, the guy's got a 3.27 ERA. Why are you sending him out? Well,
because they got 6 guys better.
Yeah, because so-and-so's back from injury. And it's like, okay. Yeah. And I think that's the spot. That's one of the reasons to I really like the Royals over their win total, is all the depth that they were able to acquire to get through last year. They now have locked and loaded. And so I think they look like they should be in a great spot, because you need, we've talked about it, 8 to 10 starting pitchers for the average playoff team. That's how many guys will get a start. It's not 14, it's not 15, it's not 16. That's where you're just getting crushed by injuries. But it's 8 to 10. The 24 Royals are an absolute anomaly. You usually are going to need more than the 5 guys. Last year's Mariners were an absolute anomaly. You're going to need more depth than that. That's one of the things that I like. And now the question is, do you carry Falter? Do you trade Falter? And how do you finish off, the bullpen? I mean,
yeah. Keep in mind too, they also, I forget about this. I forgot about this so many times since they traded for him. Mason Black was a pretty well-regarded prospect with the Giants. He has not been good. I don't know if, I have my doubts, but there's a reason the guy hasn't been good. But
spring training numbers never lie. And
that's true.
And 2 innings, 2 hits, no walks, 3 Ks, no runs. I mean, it's clear.
He worked out of trouble. I thought this was interesting. And I think that it's important that sometimes the results match the story. He worked out of trouble, which I think is really interesting. And I think I don't want to say that this is repeatable necessarily, but I do think there's a skill to being able to work out of trouble. And he gave up a triple and a double in his 2 innings, 1 in each inning. And he worked around that, which is not nothing. But yeah, I mean, those guys that they added, again, Matt Quatrero, I always think it's really interesting what managers say during spring training. And I wrote this the other day, and I think back to, it was in 2016 when Ned Yost just unprompted would talk about Matt Strahm. And most people were like, who? He's 21st round draft pick. He hadn't been he was fine in the minors. He was not impressive. And Ned Yost talked about him. I had a note at one point trying to remember how many times. It was at least 6 times unprompted. And who was one of the first call-ups when they needed help in the bullpen mid-season? It was Matt Strom. Had a 1.20 ERA or whatever it was. And so you hear these things. And so Maikel Garcia talking about Luinder Avila as a frontline starting pitcher. I'm like, okay, I've in my head, he's been in the bullpen. He's been a reliever. I'm not, they're going to build him up as a starter. Yeah, that's smart, whatever. Maybe he's a starter. Maybe he actually is. I think there are some injury issues there that will preclude that personally. But you talk about that, and how many have we named now? So it's Avila, Berger, Kolick, Black, Spence, Falter. I mean, that's a lot of guys who would be starting on a handful of teams, if not more than a handful.
Well, and we hear, what do we hear from Matt Quatrero and JJ Picoult all the time? We keep hearing about how they need more guys with options, right? Like that's, which to me brings us to the point of like, do they have to make a trade, in spring training? Because you don't want to be cutting Bailey Falter. Okay.
Right.
But you also don't want to be putting him in a spot where he's not going to be successful. So, I mean, are they looking at a spot where they have to make a trade?
Potentially. I mean, look, I'm on Roster Resource right now on Fangraphs. It's such a great tool. They're adding stuff. They didn't pay me for this, I promise, but it's incredible. But you look at the bullpen, and there are 3 pitchers currently in the 8-man bullpen who can be optioned. It's Daniel Lynch, Alex Lang, and Lucas Erceg. Well, Erceg's not getting optioned. Let's be real there. Even if he doesn't rebound to a 27% strikeout guy, he's still a good pitcher. So he's not getting optioned. I think Lynch and Lang could easily go up and down all year. But that's it. Everybody else, Estevez can't be optioned. Strom, Schreiber, Mears, Bailey Falter has no options left, like I said. And so, yeah, I think you get to a point, and the rotation too is similar. Cole Ragans can be optioned. He's not going to be. Nobody else. Noah Cameron can, and nobody else. It's Walker, Bubic, and Lugo all cannot be optioned. And at some point, you got to have a little flexibility on your pitching staff. And look, there are ways around it. Pitchers get hurt. You can put them on it's a 15-day for pitchers. So you put them on the shelf for 2 weeks. I think that you can massage it that way. And you can argue, well, that's a lot. There's always something you could put a pitcher on the IL for by May, I feel like, for the most part. But yeah, I mean, they need to have more flexibility on the pitching staff, because I mean, of the 13 pitchers who are on this list, 5 can be optioned and 2 of them absolutely will not. Well, that leaves some trouble. So I think that they do need to make a move. I think they will, actually. I will continue to say I don't think Falter makes the roster. I think he's on some other team on opening day because he got traded, and it's not for anybody we care about ever, probably. I mean, it's maybe a lottery ticket, and hope that it becomes Fernando Tatis Jr. because they need that flexibility.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they are going to have to do, I don't think you want to just be cutting somebody who's useful.
No.
So that's why.
Why would you? There's no need to.
Yeah.
There will be a team that wants Bailey Falter.
Yeah. I think you just, you go ahead and say, okay, take the best of what you can get for whoever it is that you're going to be cutting.
I also think John Schreiber could be moved, because I think Schreiber gets a little unnecessary hate and a little bit necessary. He's one of those guys I think the Royals like more than they should, and the fans dislike him more than they should. There's probably somewhere in the middle. But I could see him being moved. And when they acquired Nick Mears, it felt like those two did not need to be on the same roster. So I wonder if that there's another guy, no options, and he could be moved too.
Yeah. We'll see. All right. We want to get into who's going to be batting up at the top of the lineup. Is Maikel Garcia the right guy for that? And we'll also talk about some of the roster battles after you hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222. Or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Now at Whataburger, you can get the new Big Ranch Wrap for $3, 5 premium Whata chicken bites for $4, or a bacon cheese Whataburger Jr. for $5. Add fries and a drink for a little more. Now that's a Whata deal at Whataburger. Download the app.
Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's talk about the top of the order. Maikel Garcia batted leadoff, I think, the first couple of games. Do you like him in that spot?
I mean, I do. He was there Friday and today, and then today being Sunday, if you're listening on a different day. And India batted there in the second game. So kind of the two who I thought would fight it out. Has Collins played yet? I don't think he has. We were texting earlier, and I said he hasn't played, and I can't remember if he played on.
He didn't play Friday. Look at they got the Friday box. I'll look while you're talking. Go ahead.
I thought he'd play today against the Brewers. But I mean, I think those are your three real options. I like Garcia at the top. He takes pitches. He hits the ball hard. He's got some pop. I mean, he fits the modern leadoff hitter archetype pretty well because he actually hits for a decent average. So he gets his hits. He doesn't just walk, but he does walk. He will work counts. He can steal a base. 16 homers. He's not Kyle Schwarber at the top of the lineup, but he's not Nicky Lopez either. So I think he makes a lot of sense. I'll tell you, I thought when Quatrero, I remember when he said this, but he mentioned Bobby Witt's name there a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago, and I've always heard that Witt has said he doesn't like doing it. So it's one of those things that your superstar doesn't like doing something. Okay, you figure somebody else out. He can hit second. It's still, I mean, Bobby Witt makes the most sense of anybody, especially if you've got a better bottom of the lineup where he can drive in those runs on the turnaround. But I mean, of the guys who I think are really under consideration, I like Garcia up there. I kind of think that that they're going to give India the first shot because he's got the track record. But I don't know. Again, 2 or 3 games Garcia's hit there, so maybe not.
Yeah, I think that's that is interesting. I like. How much do you think that he's going to go with the right, left, or do you think they're just going to be more of a platoon style team, and that right, left is going to mean a lot less?
Well, yeah, I mean, they like that, obviously. And so, I mean, if you think about the problem, not the problem, but an issue with all the options other than Isaac Collins are right-handed at the top of the lineup. And if Bobby Witt's not hitting leadoff, he's hitting second. So you go right to start. So yeah, but I do think they like that. And then if you do go right, left after the top, you're putting Salvi fourth in almost every iteration, which, I mean, he hit 30 home runs. It's fine. But I'll continue to say that the Royals are going to be at their best if Salvador Perez is hitting 5th or 6th.
That's what I was going to say. The Royals will not win a World Series if Salvador Perez hits higher than 6.
I
would say playoffs.
My opinion is fit. Yeah, I'm with you.
But I just think his swing and miss, and I think at some point he's got to fall off.
Yeah, but like I said last week, I'm not going to predict it, but yes. It will happen.
I do think that they have got to find 5 hitters that are better than their 30-something-year-old 300-pound catcher. Okay, I mean that's what World Series. That's what World Series lineups look like.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's the argument against Garcia at the top, right? Is that right now because let's say it's Garcia or India. You're not putting India in the middle of the lineup. If India is not hitting first, he's hitting seventh, which is probably an argument against him hitting first. Let's be real. I mean, I think that tells you should not do that. But he had 350 career on base percentage. I've said this so many times that I feel like I'm a meme of myself now, but I would not have given him the contract. I do understand why they think he'll bounce back. There are a lot of it makes sense why they think he will bounce back. I just wouldn't have been the team to find that out, and that's fine. We'll see.
If you have the money, I mean, he's a real big league player, and so I think that's one of the things. Like, let's give credit to ownership is that they'll spend the money. And is he ideal? No. I mean, would you rather have an outfielder for $8 million that hit the way he did in Cincinnati his first and last years there? Yes, you would. But just to have another professional hitter, and I do think I expect a bounce back. I think I think the fences coming in are going to help him maybe as much or more than anybody. And I think he did. He got hit in the face to start the year and just had one thing after another. Right. Like, so I do think there's potential for him to be healthier. He cut the hair, and I don't know if you know this, but there's a great trend. Anybody who cuts the hair, their stats go up 20%.
I thought it was 25. So I was off on. Yeah.
But the long hair on a baseball player drives me crazy. Like, I don't,
it's the reverse Samson.
Yeah. I'm not anti long hair. And I know you want to have long hair. Great. Go ahead. It just looks funny to me with a baseball hat. Right, having hair that long. So
I'll disagree with you on pitchers. I like watching that flow on the mound.
Okay, I could tolerate a lot more on a pitcher, but like the Phillies with a foot long beard and hair down to the numbers. Like, no,
Brandon Marsh looks dirty. Let's be real.
Yes. It's annoying. Listen, Maikel Garcia in front of Bobby Witt, in front of Vinny Pasquantino is a nice way to start. And there's athleticism and speed, and they could get around the base paths. There's all kinds of reasons to want to do that. I'm not hating on it if that's the route they end up going. But I do, and I also think that we could see more of an India Massey platoon.
Yeah.
Right. Like, the one thing is you gave Jonathan India the $8 million, but it doesn't mean you have to play him every day. Like, now you paid him. Okay. So there's no bitching if you sit. Now, he doesn't really have much of a platoon split for his career. He's pretty much the same guy against both. So I think ideally you'd like Maikel Massey to end up being a bit of a utility guy, and take to a lot of different positions. Cause like the one thing, and you covered it on one of your Inside the Crowns, about somebody's got to be the backup third baseman, right? You can put Tolbert over there, but it'd be nice if
Nick Lofton
can. But I mean, that's. I mean, we can kind of transition to what the roster battles are. Isn't that what we're talking about down at the bottom for like 12 and 13 amongst the position players? Is like Nick Lofton, Maikel Massey. I know you're first. That's a couple of weeks old now. I think your roster prediction. You had both Massey and Lofton on the team, right?
Yeah, I did that because of the third base thing.
Yeah. That's right. That's where I read that. I was like, I know I was talking about that. You wrote it. So great point. Don't you love it when you tell somebody their point back to them? Yes, I love that. But I do think that that's real. Right. And I think the question becomes, I don't know that we're not down to a Tolbert versus Blanco. Like, like every now and then Blanco hits, when he has like a game or two and you're like, oh, if this guy can hit, then maybe we got something here. And he was a non-factor last year, but if he's back, and he does have a strong platoon split, and he is a guy that hits lefties well. And so, I know, again, you were talking about Kyle Isbell and Lane Thomas. It's looking like that will be the platoon. Then if you're going to be the short side with Jack Caglione, could Dairon Blanco be that guy?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest concern right now, I got hit in the head today. And so who knows? And that, it's different than last year. He had the Achilles injury last spring. I think he came back like 2 days before the end of spring, made the roster, played like 3 or 4 games, had the Achilles injury again, never to be heard from. And he struggled in AAA too. So, but you're right. When he's been on the big league roster in the past, he's been useful. Now, he's not a very good defender. So I think that You don't want him in center field, but you've got Lane Thomas, who you're fine with in center field now. I'm looking at the numbers right now. 2023, he had a 109 weighted run created plus, 9% above average. 2024, he was 96 with his base running ability, 4% below league average offensively. You're okay. It's fine. And now a lot of that came from that one game against the Reds, but with the crayon bat. So maybe they could let him use a crayon bat all the time, but
They should.
But as a 26th man, if Blanco's legs are healthy, and I think his Achilles just plagued him all year, he's a better base stealer than Tyler Tolbert.
And how old is he
And
now? Is he 30?
32?
I don't know.
Oh, he's 33. He's 33. He got a late start. I think his profession, his state, he was in Cuba. I think he debuted when he was 25, I want to say. Here, I'll get you an answer in a second. 25. He was his high A debut. So it took him a little while to get started just because where he came from. But he's shown an ability to be very useful. I don't think he makes the team. I think it ends up being. I don't think John Rave has a real shot. I think the way the roster has shaken out, he doesn't make any sense because they don't need another left-handed bat in the outfield. If Jack Hagelin was right-handed, I think John Rave has the inside track, but he's not. So I think it's Lofton. I think Lofton and Tolbert and Massey fill out the roster. Do I have too many players? Do I need to get rid of one?
No, that's it. In fact, let me see. Because I had
is that right?
Before we got started, was your roster breakdown again?
I think I had all three of them on there.
You had in the outfield Collins, Isbell, Caglione, Thomas, Lofton, and Tolbert.
Yeah,
and then you had Massey up as one of 5 infielders,
and Massey also in the outfield because I've been surprised at how solid Massey's looked in left field. He took to it a lot better than Jonathan India. I'll say that, but. I think those are the guys right now. And, it's in my opinion, I think it's hard to see anybody else at this point, but I mean, Drew Waters isn't going to make the team. He's far more likely to be DFA'd than make the team. And far is an understatement. Cameron Meisner, kind of the same situation as John Rave. He just doesn't make sense. He's fine for depth, but I think Blanco has the best shot because he's right-handed, but I don't think he makes it.
Yeah. I think right now he's on the outside, but I can see a lot more platooning happening this year. And I think that gets him. What about down towards, the bottom of the bullpen? So Blanco's on the outside looking in. What about in the bullpen? Who's on the outside looking in as far as the bullpen goes right now that's just trying to battle their way onto the roster in your mind? Is it Avila? Is he the best contender that's on the outside? Because you had, if people haven't read David's piece on Inside the Crown, the bullpen, Estevez, Urseg, Strom as the back end guys, right? Mears, who they brought over, obviously going to make it. Schreiber, Lynch, Alex Lang, and Bailey Falter is how you finished out. That was your first projection of where the roster would be. Avila, Black, Cruz, MacArthur, Zobak, all in the mix. Like who's battling closest to getting on that spot?
I don't know, because I mean, think about that. You got Avila, you got Cruz, James MacArthur. I don't think we can discount him. I know everybody. He's kind of in the Schreiber boat with the way that people think about him. He was nasty when he was healthy at times. I don't think he's going to make the team, but he has a big spring. I don't be surprised. But then they got Eli Morgan. They brought him in. He was really good a couple of years ago with Cleveland. He missed most of last year with the Cubs, but he was really good a couple of years ago. Hector Neris, I don't think he's got anything left, but he does get swing and miss. One name that I totally overlooked, and I kind of think it was a mistake, was Helcris Olivares, who throws 98 from the left side, has no control. But I was listening to the broadcast today, and they're talking about how he's effectively wild. We'll see. But I mean, lefty who throws 98, they're going to get chances, and maybe not opening day, But I mean, think about Sam Long. Sam Long looked really good in spring training 2 years ago and ended up making a big impact on the 2024 roster. It's possible. So they have a lot of depth. And then one other guy, I have heard absolute rave reviews about Dennis Colleran, who they drafted a couple years ago, throws upper 90s. And this isn't the last like week I've heard this. Upper 90s, gets up to 101, 102. It's the same issue that all these guys have when they're young, control. But if he can throw strikes, he's got a late inning reliever look to him too. So they have so much depth that it's one of those things that if the bullpen doesn't work to start the year, I don't have a worry about it because they've got so many guys they can cycle in to figure it out.
Do you think Daniel Lynch? What are the odds that Daniel Lynch they move on from him and Falter's the guy? That's the second.
Yeah, non-zero.
We don't need a third.
Yeah, I think it's possible. And the reason I had him on my first projection is just because I think he came into camp as the leader. I think that if everything goes the way they want it to go, I think that's how the bullpen will shake out. It will not go that way. My second projection will be not very different, but it will be different because Daniel Lynch had a really solid year with the ERA. Nothing else was good. It just he walked too many guys. He didn't strike out enough. He gave up too many hits. He had the look at the end of 2024. Remember, September he was so good in 2024, and I think it was telling that he didn't pitch in the playoffs. And there were spots he could have gone, and I think I don't think they'll be too hesitant to option him because he's one of the two guys who could be up and down. And I would not be surprised if he doesn't make the opening day roster.
Yeah.
Do you think he does?
So off yours, who would make it? Avila?
Probably. But I also think it could Steven Cruz. Look, we're not even talking about Steven Cruz, which is crazy to me because Steven Cruz last season didn't strike out enough guys, which is a common theme, but he was solid. I mean, 3.70 ERA, 3.42 expected ERA. The FIP was a little bit high at 4.14, but I mean, there were moments last year that Steven Cruz was trusted in the late innings and got it done. And we're not even talking about him, which I think speaks to the depth of this pitching staff.
He has had a little more swing and miss in the minor leagues. I mean,
yeah,
what he showed at the big league level. So
he's another guy who can throw 98, which they don't have enough of.
Yeah. And to me, when I know a lot of people are like, oh, great, he can throw hard. Yeah, but we can throw hard. And then if you can teach him, something off of that,
anything.
That's why, everyone who threw 91 or 88 or 87 in high school doesn't understand the velocity. I got people out. Yeah, because they're more big leaguers, right? But when you start with that velocity, if you can make the arm go that fast, you can make the hand go that fast, you can probably break off a curve if you can be taught it right and get the rotation. I mean, you don't get high RPMs on a breaking ball by throwing it slowly, so you got something to work with. And I just feel like Brian Sweeney's kind of the mad scientist type. Like he'll be like, okay, let's try this.
I'm fascinated to see, look, Zach Bove was awesome, right? I mean, I don't think anybody will argue that. Mike McFerrin, I'm really excited to see what he can do with some of these pitchers because he comes from that pitching lab mindset. And we've heard, I can't remember how many pitchers have said they're adding a kick change, which went, okay, well, what's different? Brian Sweeney's been here. Mitch Setter's been here. Mike McFerrin's new. Is he teaching the kick change? Because that pitch has been nasty for guys around the league. So I saw Schreiber and there was one other, I think there was a third. I can't remember the other two, but Schreiber was one of them. I'm really fascinated to see what Mike McFerrin can do. I feel like we talked about the hitting coaches so much. We kind of zoomed by Mike McFerrin, but he's a really interesting hire. And I'm curious to see how it works.
Well, I think it's obvious because the head guy stayed and everybody's satisfied with him. It's like, it's a good thing. People are talking about the hitting because the hitting wasn't good enough, but Brian Sweeney, it's like, oh, no, we got Brian Sweeney. We're all good. And I feel that way too. I feel like he'll manage that department really well. I always enjoy talking to him. I think he has great connections to the pitchers. I think they trust in him. And I think he's done a lot of great work. I mean,
the resume speaks for itself. And so you trust who he hires, you trust who he's involved with because okay, he's going to do it right. But McFerrin, it's a different background than Bove had. They're filling similar roles as kind of that analytic guy. But I mean, like I said, comes from the pitching lab. I'll be curious to see how many new pitches we see from the Royals this year.
Yeah, and hearing Brian Sweeney talk about how well everybody gets along, and like, hey, we'll pop up into Daniel Mack's office and with his guys, and go through the numbers. I mean, he gets it, right? He's the new age, new wave of pitching gurus that get it, that understand. You got to be able to connect with the pitchers, with the guys, and he certainly does that.
Yep.
That's a big part of it. All right. Anything else that you think is a battle anywhere? I mean, that's going on. Anything you want to watch in spring training?
I mean, the fifth starter, I think, I don't think Noah Cameron has it locked up. I think that he is the heavy favorite, but there's enough to me, and tell me if you disagree with this, but there's enough peripheral issue. The 2.99 ERA doesn't match the 4 something FIP. Expect the ERA is higher. Like there is a world that he could lose that fifth starter job, especially with Stephen Kolek and Ryan Berger, because they both have the looks of mid rotation starting pitchers. So
you're talking about
that. Say it again.
You're talking about Noah Cameron?
Yeah, potentially. I think he could. I don't think he's like I said, the heavy favorite, but I think he could lose a job. Otherwise, I don't see a whole lot. I mean, I guess Caglione could be so bad that he loses a job and goes back to AAA, because he's not going to sit on the bench, right? If he's not starting, he's in AAA, which I support. Makes total sense.
He's got to be. Don't you feel like he's got to be just completely lost?
Oh yeah. He's got to look worse.
He can have
than he
bad numbers. He can have bad numbers, but he's going to need to be like missing by a foot.
Yes. Yeah. It's. I don't know if I'm trying to just. I'm making up a percentage, but he's 99% to make the roster. like it's the one. Bobby Witt's 100%. These guys are 100%. He's 99%. I think maybe 98, and Carter Jensen's 99. I think there's a random world that something weird happens, especially with some of the catchers they signed. But yeah, I mean, I don't see a whole lot of battles outside of the end of the bullpen, like the front end of the bullpen, not the back end, and the bench. It feels pretty well set.
Yeah. And by the way, and maybe we'll do this in one of the episodes coming up, but like who they can't lose, who can't get hurt, right? Like, and I think we all agree it's another pitcher, but like, what does like Kyle Isbell being on the shelf for 2 months look like in center field? Yeah, because it's not going to be Maikel Garcia. That was, when we were this time last year, we were talking about maybe Maikel Garcia was going to end up being your center fielder, and they ran him out there a couple of times, but like we know that's not happening now. You just gave him a contract and you want to Gold Glove at third. You're not moving him off third base, right? That's where he's going to be. So like, and I think about it like who I mean, Lane Thomas is the only other guy they're talking about playing center field.
Well, that's because you don't want Blanco there. You don't want Tolbert there.
That's a dangerous situation. I mean, like I said, and I don't know. Well, that's at some point they're going to have
John Rave. You put John Rave out there, I guess.
That's probably who would be next. Or Drew Waters. They'd run Drew Waters up or something.
I don't think he makes it to opening day in the organization. I think he gets DFA'd. I think they make a move and they need a 40-man spot.
Do you think anybody goes for him though?
No. Well, I guess that's true. That's fair. He would probably clear. You're right.
He might not.
So,
he might not. I mean,
yeah,
there are teams that are really bad.
Hitter. He's a switch hitter. He's got power.
He has pedigree of where his draft position was, and so somebody I could.
Yeah, but you are right.
With Daniel Lynch, like if you DFA Daniel Lynch, somebody's going to take him just off the pedigree of when he was drafted, and he's 6'7" and left-handed.
Yeah, 100%. But
those guys aren't.
He has options though, at least Waters, and that's it. Drew Waters doesn't have options, so that's why I don't think he makes the open. I don't think that's why I don't think he's on the 40-man roster by opening day. That's a better way to put it, on the 40-man roster, because he can't be sent down, so they're not going to carry him. I mean,
we got a trade brewing here. Daniel Lynch, Drew Waters, Dyron Blanco, all for a great center fielder.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Maybe they revisit the Jake Myers deal, and that's how they get him, is with a bunch of used parts.
Yeah, those were the calls I used to take on post game late at night. Oh, we'll give him Angel Baroa. We'll give him. Yeah, you don't want Baroa. Why is somebody else going?
Baroa, Renelvis Hernandez, and
for Pedro. Come on,
he was an opening day starter. All right.
Yeah, got it all figured out here. Listen, you can support the Kaufman Corner podcast by supporting our great sponsors like Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's best. They are booking up now. The concrete is up and running. Asphalt will be coming soon as well. Proudly serving the greater Kansas City area, solving parking lot problems for more than 30 years. It's Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Italian delight. First to bring true New York style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago, and home of the daily lunch specials starting at under $10, just a few minutes east of Kansas Speedway, 8145 State Avenue. Find them online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Our friends at Greenlight Dispensary, 15 locations in Missouri. More on the way. Greenlight, your go-to for all your cannabis needs. Tell them you heard about it right here on the Kaufman Corner. Our friends at Northland Injury Law. If you've been hurt in an accident, at work, on the roads, text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. Voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers. That's Northland Injury Law. Call them if you've been in an accident. And by our friends at Whataburger. They're open 24 hours a day, and now you can get the new Big Ranch wrap for $3, 5 premium Whata chicken bites for $4, or a bacon cheeseburger, bacon Whataburger. Let me try this again. Bacon cheese Whataburger Junior for $5. Add fries and drink for a little bit more. You can also check out their What a Fish sandwich if you're a fish eater on Fridays, like we are in my house. The What a Catch dinner also with the fish and fries. Great option for you as well. Again, Whataburger open 24 hours a day. For David Lesky, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.